Good evening, everyone. Today is March the 6th, and today we have a very special note on our weekly Wednesday note. First of all, welcome Candice Adams, a special guest for today. And the topic for today is expungement process. We'll share with you what it means, why is it necessary to know about it. But before that, Candice, welcome as a guest speaker for Sanjeevni. Can you please give a brief introduction about yourself?
I would love to. First, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share information about expungements. We work on them a lot in my profession, so I'm thrilled to be able to talk about it. So I am the Circuit Court Clerk of DuPage County, which means in one sentence, we are the official record keeper for the court in DuPage County. Prior to being elected in 2020, I was a practicing attorney at a firm downtown. I'm a mom of four here in DuPage.
Great. Thanks so much, Candice. First of all, our viewers, anyone watching this would like to understand what is expungement process and how is it related to domestic abuse and why is it necessary to know about the information? Could you please explain about that?
That's a great question. So, as we know, criminal records affect life in so many ways, right? And that's even if um, you're found not guilty, you are not all the charges are dismissed, or if there's something in within your case that ends with a non-conviction, and all of those things still end up on your record. So when different groups are doing background checks or record checks, um, those criminal records, even though they don't end in conviction, still show up, right? So we spend a lot of time as to why do expungements matter? What do they help with, right? So having those records removed, what does that do? It helps people get better employment. It helps people with housing because there are some things on your record that can be used in determining housing criteria. It helps with education because you have to report things that are on your record when applying for education. It matters for parental rights, for voting rights, travel restrictions. Depending on what you have on your record, can prevent you from going to other countries, and it matters for immigration and public benefits. I want to start by saying there's a couple of different ways to get record relief. There's through the expungement process and through the sealing process. And those words have different meanings. The process for filing them are the same, and I'll go over that a little bit. But an expunged case gets removed from your records and can't be visible by almost everybody. But a sealed record is removed from public view, but there are still certain entities that are allowed to see that record, like law enforcement. All right, so the process. What happens is when you want to file a petition to expunge or seal, they are on the same document. You come into the Circuit Court Clerk's office, or you can do it online through the Circuit Court Clerk's office. There's a website, and I'll give you that information as well. I'll give you two important websites. And you file that document. From there, the Circuit Court Clerk's office takes that document and sends it out by statute to certain groups, to the prosecuting agent, the chief legal officer of the place where the arrest occurred, local law enforcement, Illinois State Police. And then we wait 60 days because during that 60-day period, all of those entities have the right to object to the expungement or sealing. If there's no objection, depending on what county you're in, then a judge generally grants that request for relief. In DuPage County, we set all of them for hearing so that in between 75 to 90 days, you know exactly what happened, whether or not the judge granted it, whether or not the judge continued it for further hearing, or whether or not the judge denied that request for relief. And then, assuming it's granted, it goes back out to those agencies so they can remove or seal their records appropriately. And when somebody comes later to do a background check, they won't see that those records exist anymore. So that's the process.
Anyone watching this, nobody advocates domestic abuse, domestic violence, but we all know it happens. Please note that there are always consequences to every action, and some of the consequences, can cause other effects. For example, getting a passport, getting a job, traveling out of country, buying a house. All of these require background checks, and nobody wants a DV case to come up. So, firstly, of course, we would always try that anyone watching, why go against committing something which can cause a criminal case or a police case to be registered? And should there be a scenario like this, there is a process which Candice just explained. But Candice, it does require the assistance of a legal professional, a lawyer, correct?
It can and cannot. I will tell you always, my best advice is to discuss with an attorney. There are certainly legal aid clinics or providers here in DuPage County and throughout Illinois. So we work very closely with Prairie State, with PILI, Public Interest Law Initiative. They help people, assuming you meet their criteria, with expungements when it's appropriate. So yes, I would say always consult with an attorney, but if you want to do it on your own, you're able to do that. The forms for expungement, there are some standard forms that are located in two places. They're located on the Illinois Supreme Court's website, and then they're also located on the clerk's website that redirects you to the Illinois Supreme Court website. But we have all the forms that we use in our courts. Our website, which is the website that could also help you with filing or knowing who to call to like talk through the process. We love getting calls to help people better understand the court system just in general. But is 18th, so 18th judicial.org. So www.18thjudicial.org.
And Candice, are the rules for expungement different in different states, or is there a universal law across the country?
They are definitely different in throughout the country. And even internally in Illinois, we handle them slightly different county by county in terms of procedure. The law should be applied the same, but procedure-wise, sometimes they vary slightly from county to county. So yes, they do differ. I will say this, in Illinois, in order to get an expungement, you have to file in the county in which you were arrested. So, and charged. So if they said the incident happened here in DuPage County, you would file that in DuPage County. If it happened in Chicago, you would file it in Cook County.
Several of our clients have come to us. They have been residing in different states where the case was registered. They took necessary classes, which was granted by, or which was assigned by that particular state. And when they have come to Illinois, they go through, they have question as to what do we do now? Because we cannot go back to the state where the case happened. What will be the process then?
So my best recommendation to you or to people in that situation would be to call the circuit court clerk in that jurisdiction to see what the process is. We do have a lot of people from out of state call us to ask us how they can move through or navigate the expungement process. It's a little tricky because sometimes judges will require in-person appearance. So you're going to have to navigate that, and you're going to have to decide how important it is to get the record relief if they are requiring an in-person hearing.
One more question came in anonymously. So again, the client is from a different state. The client did the needful, I believe it was anger management classes and a different kind of counseling with the partner. It took almost 2 years. And when in Illinois, the question is, the person did go for an expungement process, and the person was asked to go over the classes and the counseling again. Is that how the process is the question from this person?
So the answer to that question is, again, I will always send you back to an attorney or some legal aid provider. But in that hypothetical situation, speaking for Illinois, ultimately the judge has the discretion whether or not to grant the expungement or sealing. So if the judge is the one that is deciding the conditions before expungement, and that's allowed in that state, then that seems like perhaps that is something that is allowed. But I would seek legal counsel, and then I would also call the circuit court clerk's office to make sure that the process happened the way that the circuit court clerk's office would expect it to happen, and that there were no errors, like nothing out of the file that should have been recorded that wasn't recorded.
Understood. One more question came in. Again, one client had the background check and for a job application, but the particular case came up. So the question is, going forward, should the person let the company know in advance of the case which has been registered? Will that be fair as a prospective uh, employee? Or what should be the direction, or should the person go to the court and ask?
So definitely go to the court and ask. But I will say this. So if you think that record should have been expunged and that background check showed up when it should not have, then I would contact the circuit court clerk's office to figure out if everything was done on the circuit court clerk's office. I would find out how the employer knew about that, because it should not have been on a record if you've gone through the expungement process and it's been granted, right? So I would start by talking with the court to see what it was. In terms, and just so we are still together, an expungement is only going to happen on a non-conviction case. So if it's a conviction case, that employer, if it's a sealed case, which is a conviction case, but the judge seals it. If that's a sealed case, then some employers statutorily are still allowed to see that. Like anything that relates to children, the healthcare, things like that, they are still allowed to see sealed cases. So it's really going to matter on who the employer is as to what they can see on a sealed case.
Understood. So if the person sending the question, they're still watching, I hope the response was useful. And as Candice mentioned, the best way to approach or get an answer is to contact your local county courthouse and the clerk there. Thank you so much, Candice. This is very useful information.
Can I add one plug? I'm sorry.
Of course.
We are having our 4th expungement clinic here in DuPage County. Registration opens for that on April 16th. People have something in DuPage County they want help with, and then the clinic will be happening on August 17th. So very shortly, the registration will open on our website should people want to join us.
Is that free, Candice?
It is.
Okay. So that's again for anyone in that particular county. Right. Will that help for other county persons to also come and get information? It may not be completely relevant, but will that be helpful?
They will be able to direct you in Illinois how to get help. Yes.
Any other points, Candice?
No, that's it. That's all I got.
Again, appreciate your time, Candice. And once again, it's a very important information to know. DV should never happen, but if it happens, and if the perpetrator has a particular case, and there are processes, there's healing for everything, but for whatever reason, an expungement is required. This is the process as outlined by Candice. But once again, please refer to the local court in your county. For any other questions, you can always call Sanjeevni or any trusted organization. Sanjeevni's helpline number is 224-424-0050. So we're going to meet again next Wednesday. Thanks, Candice. Thanks for all your time and your input today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.